What's up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take NBA DFS First Look for Tuesday, November 5th, 2019, CK013. Here you can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I am from the Wise Take Nation, a DFS community and premium content provider designed to help make you a better DFS player. You can follow Wise Take on Twitter for the latest promotional news at Wise_Take, or you could visit Wise Take directly at wisetake.com and join the nation. So Monday was an extremely chalky slate, very high scoring slate. Typically, I find that it's typically harder to get teams to the very top because there is so much chalk that you have to kind of nail the right ones with the field in terms of where you are with the field on a specific player. One of the players I had too much of was Brandon Clark. One of the players I didn't have enough of was Brandon Ingram. But all in all, it was pretty interesting, especially with the Warriors, who I had a lot of actually beating Portland. Despite their basic entire starting lineup out. Today's slate is a little bit different. It's a little more open, I guess you could say. We've got limited, I think it's 6 games once again, which is pretty awesome on a size basis. Normally on Tuesdays we've been getting 3-game slates. Just looking over, I think that the first spot that stood out to me, and this is a slate where I don't think the value doesn't seem as strong. Obviously, that could change. We have some questionable guys like Sabonis, Collins. So we'll have to see how some of this injury news plays out. Justice Winslow also questionable. But I think that, and also the pricing of some of these guys has gone up. Guys like the Atlanta value that we've had, their prices have now come up, and we've seen that trend for a lot of these guys. I do think that Anthony Davis is probably the first standout option. He hasn't done a ton over his last couple of games since going for 70 against Memphis. But we know the Bulls are absolutely terrible against centers, and they're just not going to have anybody with enough size to match up with Anthony Davis, who I think with Kuzma back has been playing some 5. With that said, in tournaments, could be a good idea to get exposure to JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard, the other Lakers centers. But Anthony Davis, to me, seems like one of the primary plays on the board. With that said, LeBron James has just been awesome. You can see 92 and 62 over his last 2 games. He's fine. I'm sure I'll have exposure to him, but Anthony Davis just seems like a nut spot for the big man. Malcolm Brogdon has been a complete usage freak against Chicago. Slower paced type of game. Just wasn't really, I guess just didn't do a ton. But the assist numbers have looked good. It looks like they've come down a little bit with the absence of Miles Turner, something we want to keep in mind. But against Charlotte, pretty good spot. And if we get Sabonis in there, could be a plus matchup for Mr. Malcolm Brogdon, who's been awesome. I think coming down, as far as value goes, we don't have a ton of like super strong value at the moment. TJ Leaf has been priced up to $5K, and then even what is it? If Sabonis does miss, we've got East Center Goga Bitadze, who has gotten into foul trouble. He fouled out against Chicago. Just the magic of Chicago against bigs. Fouled out against Chicago in 19 minutes, put up 26 DraftKings points. So we'll want to keep an eye on Sabonis and Turner's status, the status of those two guys. But could be a strong value play. Another one who seems underpriced is probably Otto Porter. In that Laker game, he's questionable, but he's actually probable. He's coming off a really bad outing. against the Pacers, in which he scored 4 actual points and 1 of 10 shooting. 1 of 10 is obviously really bad. I think he bounces back, and 4,300 seems like a pretty low price, and we're going to need some value again to fit in the guys we're looking for. Going back to point guard, I talked about Brogdon. I think Kemba Walker's been pretty impressive with Jaylen Brown out. His price is 8,500 against Cleveland. It's a nut matchup against a nut matchup for guards. We know Cleveland has not been good against guards for quite a while. The most impressive thing about Kemba Walker is his ability to get to the free throw line over his last 2 games, 15 and 14 free throw attempts. And the assist numbers have been mediocre, but he's been fairly consistent. So, could get behind that. I think I'm going to cut it there for now. But as you can see, just you get the general idea of the slate. A lot of the value plays, for instance, Nerlens Noel, Myers Leonard, these guys aren't as cheap as they were. So unless something else opens up, we're going to have to kind of scrounge and see which one of these value plays is going to kind of weigh out these value plays. With that said, on the contrary, there's not a ton of studs, I think, that you want to get as many as possible, but there's just not a lot. Anthony Davis is the only player above 10K. So even though we don't have a ton of super mega value, we also don't necessarily need it. We may not need it. You always can use value if it comes in, but we may not need it. So this is kind of where we're at. Should be an interesting slate. DeMar DeRozan. Marcus Aldridge has been completely terrible. The magician, as we like to call him. He's been awful, and he's been doing a phenomenal disappearing act this year. But this is a pretty good matchup for him against Atlanta. We do want to keep in mind the old adage. It looked like the Miami Heat did partake, but typically when players are out in Atlanta, the party scene's pretty hot. So we've seen teams struggle, to say the least. But it's an interesting slate. Come see how we approach it tomorrow at the Wise Take Nation. We'll be doing the Wise stream, which is our live stream, 2 hours prior to lock, 5 p.m. Eastern, I believe. And we're going to dig in on this slate a little bit more. So we got some injury news we're waiting for. Anthony Davis seems like a top play. Any big against Chicago is just phenomenal. And Otto Porter looking like a strong value play. That's what we got so far. So come rock with us tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button for us. It goes a long way. It allows us to keep doing these videos. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notifications bell so you're notified whenever we do go live. With that said, come check out the Wise Take Nation. We got day passes if you want to try out the content for $2.50. You'll get access to all the NBA content for the day. Only thing you don't get access to is the Slack chat, which is for monthly members or higher. Although I do highly recommend you eventually get in the Slack chat so you can mix it up with the rest of the members and analysts and really work on the skill aspect of this game we call daily fantasy sports. For myself, the entire West Tech Nation, as always, good luck.
Yes.